G'day F1 fans, we are set for a monster season with 24 races in 2024. It kicks off with Bahrain testing on Wednesday, February 21 and finishes with post-season testing, one day of it, after the Abu Dhabi race on December 10. A 293-day season, travelling to 21 different countries, and suffice it to say this will be the most gruelling F1 season ever. Let's go through the first half of the season. We kick off with a double header in the Middle East and then 4 standalone races in a row. And I can't remember that ever happening in my time as an F1 photographer. And it includes the longest trip of the year for those based in England and Europe, the 17,000 kilometre trip from London to Melbourne. And while it's the longest trip for most of the people in F1, it's the shortest trip for me, some 3.25 hours by plane. Continuing on, we then have a double header, another standalone, a triple header and a double header, making it 14 races in the first half of the year. And then we get the summer break, or for me, it's a winter break. 3 weekends off, and the second half of the year is probably even more grueling, although it's a fewer number of races, because we start off with a double header, another double header, and then 2 triple headers. That's 6 races in 7 weeks. And look at the travel involved in that 7-week period. This is going to be grueling for everybody. Now the summer break, where we get 3 weekends off, is our longest break. But we also get 2 weekends off between Singapore and Austin, and again between Brazil and Las Vegas. This year we have 9 races in Europe, 5 in North America, 4 in the Middle East, 3 in Asia, and then Azerbaijan, Australia and Brazil. So what will be the ramifications of such a long and grueling season? Well, it's going to be more illnesses. And if you go back to the Las Vegas race, certainly there are a lot of people ill in the paddock with colds and all sorts of issues. Esteban Ocon wasn't well. In fact, it took him the best part of 10 or so days for him to get better again. And while team crews can sort of be rotated over the 24 races, you can't do that with drivers. They have to turn up to every single race. I'll be going to every single race, although this year I'll be cognizant of getting direct flights wherever possible because I'll have such little spare time. And what are we expecting on track? Well, for me, I see Max winning again. Just can't see anybody getting anywhere near him, and certainly the bookmakers have him as the odds-on favourite. Let's have a look at the pit lane. How will it look this year? Starting from team number 1, Red Bull, followed by Mercedes, Ferrari, McLaren, Aston Martin, Alpine, Williams, Racing Bulls, Alfa Romeo, which will be called Stake, and then Haas. Now normally the top team is positioned at the end closest to the podium, and that's because the FIA want to have the mechanics making the shortest run, not the longest, to get to Parc Ferme and the podium. But that also means that at some tracks like Australia, the number 1 team is next to the podium, which is at the exit of the pits. But then at tracks like this one, you've got the top team actually at pit entry, which is next to the podium. But there is one exception, Japan. Red Bull down the bottom at pit exit, podium at pit entry. So if Haas happens to win that race this year, their mechanics will have a very short trip to Parc Ferme. Just on that same subject, in Monaco, the top team is positioned at the start of pit lane. So to get to the podium, their team have to pass most of the garages, turn left, head out onto the track for Parc Ferme, and then the podium is positioned on the outside of the track. Now that's the only time we see a podium on the outside of the track. Oh, and in Mexico City, the podium is situated in the stadium, which is a couple of 100 metres away from the exit of the paddock. Now, to the races. Which one has the fewest spectators? That's typically Bahrain. Some 100,000 turned up last year. This year, you can get a grandstand ticket. There's no general admission there for around $180 US. So that's a bargain, and you'll get to see the cars come past you 57 times. Will it be the cheapest race of the year? Maybe for a grandstand seat, but not for general admission. I'll get to which is the cheapest race to attend in just a moment. But the biggest crowd of the year? Well, that'll be probably Silverstone. Last year, 480,000 people over the days. A 57-lap race. With Silverstone, I don't love it because you're a long way away from the action at almost every turn, and a 3-day general admission ticket there is not cheap, $418 US. I do get asked very often what is my favourite race, so I'll say it again for those of you new to my channel. I love Monaco for the photography side of things. It's just spectacular with the boats. It's very easy to get around. Yes, the racing is not really racing, it's more of a procession. But for me, my favourite's Monaco. Then I think probably Las Vegas, Austria, Japan, Imola, Spa. And the worst? I'll get to that in just a moment. Best value race? Probably Hungary or Japan. Very good accommodation rates in Budapest. Track's okay, crowd's great, and as for Japan, I love the track. It's probably one of my favourite tracks to attend, although the accommodation is interesting, it's very local. And the most expensive races? Yeah, Silverstone, Monaco and Las Vegas. Let's talk fashion. Yeah, fashion. Formula One fashion. Not that F1 guys typically wear out their outfits. Of course, Lewis is the exception and he will wear in some amazing outfits and has done for most of my time in Formula One. Zhou Guanyu is also colourful. Daniel Ricciardo and Lando Norris often wear interesting casual outfits. Pierre Gasly the same. Valtteri Bottas takes some risks, but I think you'll find more and more now drivers will be negotiating in their contracts the right to wear their own choice of clothing to the track, especially on Thursday, but perhaps like Lewis, all 4 days. And as much as many of you don't like the fact, it has great interest for fans. People want to see what these drivers are wearing. Let's look at the other drivers in regards to their fashion. Aston Martin is sponsored by Boss. That's why we saw Fernando Alonso and to a lesser degree Lance Stroll wearing Boss clothing last year. Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz, well, they wore Ferrari merchandise on a number of days. Nico Hülkenberg, he took a shine to their sponsor's kit, Palm Angels, as did Magnussen, but perhaps not to the same degree as Nico. Pierre Gasly, Esteban Ocon, both wearing outfits from Berluti, Alpine's elegance partner. Yes, that's what it says on the website here. They have an elegance partner. And then we get down to Logan Sargent and Sergio Perez, who are almost always in team kit. And then Max Verstappen, who is religiously in team kit with the exception of one race this year, for memory, Brazil. At present, most of the teams dictate to the drivers what they have to wear at the track, and it's mostly team kit because those sponsors pay a lot of money and they want their fair share of exposure. Now, these fit and presentable F1 drivers can make a lot of money by doing separate brand deals with fashion houses, given the amount of attention that they get in the media. Take a look at Lewis Hamilton. He's paid handsomely for wearing many of the outfits that we see him at the track in. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll know that some of my biggest posts revolve around drivers in fashionable gear arriving at the track. That's not to say that everybody loves the fashion that, say, Lewis or Zhou wears, but it certainly creates interest, gets people commenting, and that's music to my ears. I mentioned earlier on I'd get to my least favourite race. Well, it is China. I've only done 3 races there, 17, 18 and 19, and then of course we had 4 years off, but we are back there this year in April. Why don't I like the race? Well, for me, it's not in a great spot. It's about an hour away from a brilliantly bustling city that I'd love to spend time in, but of course we're out in pretty much what is not really an industrial area, but it's not exactly riveting. The skies are mostly grey. Last time we raced there, just 160,000 people showed up over the 3 days, and that's about 40% capacity at the circuit. And to avoid empty grandstands, the organiser actually puts a lot of signage over the top of a lot of those grandstands, which doesn't make it great photographically. We also struggle to get huge numbers to the media day. And then we get to the paddock. Now, it's a big paddock. It's way too big, and in the past, the teams say there's no soul, there's no atmosphere in there because you've got the hospitality suites, which are located in a garden area. You've got this area of nothing pretty much, and then you've got the garages. But maybe Zhou Guanyu will be the stimulus for a big rise in ticket sales this year. And on the topic of tickets, this will surely be the cheapest race that we have this year because you can get a 3-day general admission ticket for a mere 67 United States dollars. Is that incentive enough for people to get along to this race and make it interesting? I do remember 2019, went down and photographed all the drivers meeting the fans on the Thursday, and there was such a huge difference in, say, what you get in Monza, where the pit lane is just chock-a-block, and what you get in China, where there were maybe 5,000 fans, I'm guessing. Other races of interest for me, Vegas. I'm hoping that they sort out the situation with hotel pricing because, of course, they went very hard at the start last year and come 2 or 3 weeks prior, all the hotels were dropping their rates. Perhaps this year we can see them going in a little bit leaner at the start and maybe, if they look like selling out, bumping the price up closer to the event. Ticket-wise, I do hope they can find some cheaper options for people because that was certainly one of the big issues with the Vegas race. And then Qatar. Gee, that last year's race was horrible to watch. It was horrible to work in. You could see on television just how dehydrated and distraught some of those drivers were at the end of the race. Yes, we're going 6 weeks later, and touch wood, we find ourselves in a much nicer climate. One thing this race does offer, though, is some exceptionally good value hotel rooms. I guess all those hotels were built for the World Cup. Now they're struggling to fill them, so come F1, you can still find exceptional value for really classy hotels and not very far from the track. Other things I'm looking forward to. Oh, Brad Pitt's movie coming out this year. Fingers crossed they get it finished. Of course, it was put on hold last year because of the actors' strike. We had Brad at a few races and we had filming at a few more than that, but the actors' strike did mean that a lot of what they wanted to do could not be done. I'm hoping they're back there early in the season, adding a bit of colour to our paddock with all that gear. And it's going to be interesting to see, because if that movie goes off with a bang, what could that do for the sport? That could add millions more followers. One of the most fascinating aspects of the 2024 season is going to happen mid-year, when the drivers and the teams start locking in their contracts for 2025. Now this year, these 12 drivers have contracts that expire at the end of the year. Might even be 13, because details of Lance Stroll's contract aren't public. There'll be plenty of negotiations and, of course, rumours circulating in the latter part of the season. Max Verstappen won't need to worry though, he's locked in until 2028. The McLaren drivers won't be spending any time negotiating either, because Lando's in until 2025 and Oscar the year after. George and Valtteri have contracts until 2025. One thing's for sure, those 12 or 13 managers will be busily exploring all their options as the season progresses. But as always, you're never quite sure what's going on, because it might not be until somebody decides to take that spot that one opens up and then that one becomes available, and it becomes almost a game of musical chairs. This is my best of 2023 photo book. You need a copy, get onto kimillman.com. If you've enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't done so, and thank you to all of my channel members. See this stuff here? It's all worth having a look at. Merchandise, content, everything you want. F1 right here. Thanks for watching, and stay passionate. Alfa Romeo, which will be called Strike, and Haas. Strike. Steak. Oh yeah. Thank you.